Hello guys, this is me Simo Orahara, and in this video I will talk about one of the most mysterious topics for Bleach fans, and it is the Bankai of Aizen Sosuke. Does he really own a Bankai? If he owns it, what is it? Why didn't he ever use it, and why we never saw it? These are all questions that I will try to answer by discussing all the events that took place around Aizen and his Zanpakuto Kyoka's. So, first of all guys, and as an initial answer to the question, does Aizen own a Bankai? It's yes, he has a Bankai, or to be more specific, as the well-known rules, Aizen is supposed to have a Bankai. Whether Kobo really has an idea about his Bankai or he never thought of it, but with the facts of the story, Aizen Sosuke is the first character that we can say this character owns Bankai. Why? First, we must ask a fundamental question. What is Bankai at all? Bankai, as Yorishi said, is the second release of Zanpakuto, and as you know, the first release is Shikai. And always with Yorishi, she said that in order for a Shinigami to have a Bankai, he must submit his Zanpakuto so that he externalizing it from the inner world to the outside world. And with continuous training, the Shinigami reaches the possibility of releasing the Bankai. The whole issue lies in submitting the Zanpakuto and making it externalizes in the outside world. And I ask you this question, will it be difficult for Aizen Sosuke to submit the Zanpakuto? The answer is easier than drinking water. Aizen has submitted the Wikomondo King Baragan and made him under his control and submitted all the Espada. So submitting the Zanpakuto is very easy task for Aizen Sosuke, because one of the characteristics of Aizen as a character is his ability to submit, whether with his personality or strength. And the arguments of the ones saying that Aizen may not have a Bankai seem very weak in front of these informations. So as I said, Aizen Sosuke has all the ingredients to have a Bankai. Moreover, the mystery is not found in whether Aizen has Bankai or not, but in the nature of Aizen Sosuke's Zanpakuto, Kyoka's to refine power lies in complete hypnosis, in which he makes victims believe in things that does not exist by manipulating their five senses. I don't know exactly at what age Aizen might have decided to adopt his revolutionary ideas, but it seems that since he discovered his Zanpakuto's ability, he decided to make it almost invisible to everyone so that his plans could go ahead. And when he wanted to become a captain, there is no doubt that when he passed his exam test as a captain, he would have shown that committee a fake Bankai by using the abilities of Kyoka's Wickets, because Yorichi literally said that in the history of the Soul Society, Kinpachi Zaraki is the only person who became a captain without owning a Bankai or even knowing his Zanpakuto's name, meaning that Aizen Sosuke showed everyone that he owns Bankai, but only a fake Bankai using the illusion of Kyoka's Wickets. And Aizen's real Bankai was hidden in shadow, because he didn't even show them the nature of his Zanpakuto, let alone the Bankai. And as Isani said, Aizen Sosuke gathered the vice captains and told them that the ability of Kyoka's Wickets is to use the reflection of fog and water to make enemies fight each other, meaning even if he were to show Bankai to some captains, it would be just an illusion from the Kyoka's Wickets so that no one would doubt his competence, and thus the throat of Shikai will remain hidden and everyone will have like Isani's conception of Shikai, and the same will be the case with Bankai. But after the events of the Soul Society arc, everything was revealed and Aizen Sosuke had no reason to hide the abilities of the Kyoka's Wickets, so everyone knows that Aizen Sosuke's Shikai ability is full hypnosis. And here's another question arises, why did Aizen not use Bankai after the ability of Shikai became known? The automatic answer is that no one has ever found a weak point in Kyoka's Wickets ability. Everyone was unable to avoid Kyoka's Wickets. Second, I will ask you this question, why didn't Hiraku use his Bankai in the Arankara arc and in the final arc? Why didn't Kisuke train Chad with Bankai? Why didn't the old man release Zanka no Tachi in front of Aizen and just decide to fight him with Shikai? Did you get my point, guys? Being professional in Bankai does not necessarily mean that you can release it anytime you want. We have seen several reasons why Shinigami can't release Bankai, and also like I said, the Shinigami does not need to release the Bankai at all if Shikai is still useful. And this is exactly what happened with Aizen Sosuke. Aizen's main strength is Ryatsu. He has fantastic spiritual power, and on this basis of this point, Yuaba classified him among the 5 special weapons. And before Aizen merged with the Hokyoku, he had brought the world of Wikomondo under his grasp, removing Baragan from his throne, only by using Shikai and Ryatsu. Even in the battle against the Gochi, we notice how he defeated everyone without the slightest effort. So to the extent of his battle against the captains and their defeat, Aizen didn't need to use Bankai. And when his integration with the Hokuko was completed and he began to enter into the successive phases, here Aizen gave up his entire Zanpakuto abilities. The Hokuko plunged Aizen into a paranoia of strength that made him consider almost everything that is Shinigami to be useless. We notice how he underestimated the Kilo that Kisuke was launching against him. And Kisuke himself noticed how Aizen Sosuke became apathetic and careless after becoming in another phase of power. But when the final arc came, here several things have changed. First, before the beginning of the final arc, an important question was raised. Will Aizen return to the events again or not? This question was quickly answered by Kobo in one of his interviews in Germany, when he said yes, he will return because he's important to the story. Unfortunately, most of us know that Aizen's role was not as important as we expected, but I think the best time we would have seen Bankai Aizen is in the final events against Yuaba. So why didn't that happen? The answer, in my opinion, has two possibilities. So the first possibility is that Aizen's Bankai is included in the list of Bankai that are difficult to launch because it causes great damage to its surroundings, and I will present to you my theory about Aizen Bankai shortly. The second possibility that Aizen Bankai had qualitative abilities and was able to make a difference in defeating Yuaba, but Kobo, like he did with Ichigo when he decided not to show us the real Bankai of Ichigo, he did the same thing with Aizen Sosuke. So back to the first possibility, my idea about Aizen's Bankai is that it's based on the rule that says that some Bankai are an extension of the abilities of the Shikai. If the Kyokasui manipulates the five senses and makes the victim imagine things that don't exist under the name of full hypnosis, the Bankai will be an absolute illusion, so that the victim enters an internal delusion, and we might call it absolute madness. A crazy person lives his life seeing things that no one else sees, and based on that, he is classified as a crazy person. And so when Aizen releases the Bankai, everyone in his surroundings will have internal hallucination that will permanently damage all of his five senses. He only sees an illusion from his imagination and hears words from his imagination, and all senses are measured against that. The victim will simply be walking without clothes thinking that he's wearing clothes, and that's why I said that it will be on the list of difficult Bankai to release, especially since the ability of the Bankai will not be removed from the opponent except with the death of its owner, and you know that Aizen has the ability of immortality. So the issue is literally internal madness, because Aizen in his fight against Yuaba, he was fighting with Ichigo and the rest, and if the Bankai was released, everyone will be exposed to his influence, everyone will go mad, and at that time the Bankai will not benefit him anything. And this is the same thing that may have made Aizen not want to release the Bankai at any point of his life, just as the Shikai is enough for him to defeat his enemies. But the nature of Aizen's character does not want a mindless followers. Even in his previous battles, he did not even want to kill the captains because he wanted them to witness what would happen, and the Bankai of Aizen in its nature does not provide him with that desire that he wants to submit the world willingly or voluntarily, but with the presence of their awareness and thinking, and not with their mind absent from reality. Because in his fight against Yuaba, Aizen was obligated to use the Kyokasui, and this is a proof that even in the Hogyoko mode, at that point he needed to use the abilities of his Zanpakuto. So at that moment, any useful weapon should have been used. So I think if Aizen had a Bankai without terrifying effects, he would have used it. But if he has a Bankai like the theory that I just presented to you, it will be difficult for him. And there is the second possibility, which is that Aizen's Bankai had qualitative abilities, and through which he can target his opponents without harming his allies. But due to Kobo's illness, he was unable to make Aizen release the Bankai as he did with Ichigo. For example, the ability of Aizen's Bankai is to stop time and thus prevent Yuaba from seeing the future for a certain period of time, and the other 5 special weapons can fight him and then defeat him, or something like that. The important thing is that in this video I try to explain to you that the issue of Aizen owning a Bankai is not difficult. The problem is how to use it and on what basis it can be used. What do you think, guys? Are you going with the first possibility or the second, or do you have another possibility regarding Aizen's Bankai? Tell me in the comments, guys, and see you in my next video.